Joining us now, prominent criminal defense attorney Mark Eiglarsh. All right, Mark, I got lambasted on my radio show today for taking this position. Everyone getting so mad at me for defending the personal assistant, and I'm not really defending him. All I'm asking is, if this was not the Mathew Perry investigation, would all of these charges, including the personal assistant, have been brought?
All right, first, I see your point. And the answer is probably not, because there wouldn't have been an investigation. There's limited resources that they have, and they devoted them to Mathew Perry because he is who he is. Now, on the other side, I'm letting you know that I have a case here in South Florida, no high-profile defendant or victim involved. It was a client of mine who was addicted to heroin at the time, and he shared with his female friend some of his heroin that unknowingly was laced with fentanyl, and she died. I am now defending him on first-degree murder charges because the felony that he committed, giving her drugs unlawfully, caused her death. It's going on, man. These prosecutors are going after people for this stuff.
But does it matter that he worked for Mathew Perry, right? I mean, does it matter that his entire livelihood, you know, a lot of people, again, on the radio show today were calling in saying to me, if my husband asked me to do, I wouldn't do it, and I'd expect to be charged if they asked me to do it. Except you don't work for your husband. And is there anything different about someone who's living at the house, instructed to do it by Mathew Perry, and doesn't?
Okay, there is a difference, but all that doesn't belong in the discussion of whether they should charge him or not. Once they discover it, you got to charge him. Where it belongs is when I go to court for sentencing and I mitigate it. I say, listen, it's very different than these Dr. Conrad Murray wannabes who, like Michael Jackson's doctor, got starry-eyed and were willing to do whatever it takes to make Mathew Perry their friend, pun intended. It's very different than that scenario. And then hopefully the judge maybe doesn't, give as much prison time.
What do you make about the defense? Sounds like they're going to argue causation here, that it's tough to prove that the actual drugs that were sold were the ones that killed him.
You've got to argue that. It'd be malpractice not to. And let them prove that the specific drugs caused the death. If not, you take that off of the table, then what you're left with are still very serious charges. But trafficking or improperly giving out ketamine is very different than being responsible for the death. The points in federal court will drive those guidelines up significantly.
Yeah. And do you expect that these guys are going to plead, the two of them are going to plead? I would think they'd probably end up with a plea agreement, right?
Yes. The evidence seems to be overwhelming. Nowadays, people are texting out their drug deals, not like in the good old days 30 years ago where it'd be one person's word against another. One person apparently tweeted out, how much can we get from this moron? And I want to be his sole dealer. Those things like that. Plus, one of your defendants is named Queen of Ketamine. I mean, that's not a good name in a case like this.
No, it's not her given name, but it's still how she's known. All right.
You sure? I don't know.
Yeah. Mark Eiglarsh, thank you as always. Appreciate it.
Thank you, my friend. Yeah.
Still ahead, Senator.